Every woman walks through this world with silent power. That power is either directed by intention or scattered by distraction. To master your day is to master your destiny, but mastery is never an accident. It is born through small, consistent practices repeated with purpose. Mastery is not a gift. It is not a blessing reserved for the few. It is not an event that arrives on your doorstep with fanfare and certainty. Mastery is not found in intensity. It is found in repetition, and repetition is often unglamorous. It does not impress the crowd. It does not shout or sparkle. It whispers in your habits. You see, the woman who wakes up early and sits with her breath every morning for just 10 minutes, she is not meditating to impress anyone. No one is watching her. There are no rewards for her silence. But over time, that daily decision etches a pathway into her being. That breath becomes her foundation. That quiet moment becomes her weapon. And that woman becomes calm, not by chance, but by design. Repetition is the sculptor of your character. Every act you perform daily, no matter how small, is like a drop of water shaping stone. You may not see the result on the first day, or the 5th, or even the 50th, but the drops keep falling, and one day, without warning, the shape has changed. You have changed. Mastery hides in places where most people are unwilling to look. In the simplicity of the small, in the boredom of the routine, in the discipline of showing up. To walk the same path every day and still walk it with awareness, that is power, that is presence. The difference between the average and the extraordinary is not talent. It is not luck. It is devotion. Most people look for excitement, for stimulation, for the next new thing. They jump from habit to habit, from idea to idea, from goal to goal. But those who master something, be it the body, the mind, a skill, or the self, do not look for variety. They look for depth. They do not chase intensity. They fall in love with consistency. Repetition is not mindless if you are mindful. Each repetition is a mirror. Each morning walk, each journal entry, each stretch, each prayer if done with presence, becomes a sacred ritual. A doorway to refinement, not for others, not for recognition, but because you have chosen the path of mastery, and that path requires repetition. Not because it is easy, but because it is real. Even the most gifted artists, dancers, martial artists, poets, those we admire for their grace and presence, they did not arrive where they are by accident. Their art is the result of thousands of repetitions. Their ease was once awkward, their grace was once effort, but they kept returning to the same practice, the same breath, the same movement, until it became a part of them, until the practice disappeared and only the presence remained. There is something sacred about repetition. It is a contract you make with yourself, not to be perfect, but to return, to show up, to stand in the same place you stood yesterday, but with deeper awareness, to do the same task you did yesterday, but with more heart. Repetition humbles the ego. It removes the illusion of instant results and teaches you patience. It teaches you trust. A woman who repeats her rituals each day begins to walk differently, not because her body has changed, but because her energy has. Not because life has become easier, but because her relationship with herself has deepened. She becomes a temple of discipline, a quiet force. And this force is not loud, not chaotic, but stable, undisturbed, because it has been built day by day through the honoring of small habits. If you desire mastery over your emotions, your health, your craft, or your direction, you must not wait for motivation. You must build rhythm. Repetition does not require that you feel inspired. It requires only that you remember who you are becoming, and that is the secret. The woman who does the same thing every day, she is not stuck in routine. She is training, she is creating momentum, she is becoming permanent, because what you do daily you become, not what you occasionally dream of, not what you speak of, but what you repeatedly do. Mastery, then, is not a finish line. It is a lifestyle, a quiet choice made again and again in the privacy of your life until one day you realize you are no longer practicing, you have become. Silence is often misunderstood. In a world where noise is everywhere, silence is seen as absence, as weakness, even as discomfort. But those who truly walk the inner path understand that silence is not emptiness, it is depth. Silence is not lack of action, it is the preparation for meaningful action. It is the space in which truth speaks, not the truth of others, your truth. The power of silence is not in its volume, but in its presence. It does not rush, it does not explain itself, it simply is, and in that stillness, everything becomes visible. In silence, you begin to hear what the world has been drowning out. The voice inside you that knows, that observes, that waits. That voice is not loud, but it is wise. It has been with you always, only waiting for the noise to fade so it can be heard. The woman who understands silence does not speak quickly. She does not react impulsively. She does not seek to fill every gap with sound or opinion. Instead, she listens, not just to words, but to the space between them. She listens to body language, to energy, to intention. She reads what is not said more clearly than what is, and in this awareness she gains clarity that others miss. This is not passive, this is precision. You meet yourself, you see what is real and what is illusion. You see your own fears, your patterns, your habits. You begin to notice what triggers your mind, what clouds your emotions, what pulls you away from peace. And in noticing, you are given the chance to change, but that chance does not come through noise. It comes through quiet. Those who are quick to speak often miss the essence. They may win arguments but lose understanding. They may express but not connect. But the woman who listens, truly listens, becomes grounded. She is not easily shaken, not because she is passive, but because she has trained herself to observe before reacting. She has learned to wait before deciding. Her silence is her filter. Her awareness is her shield. There is a difference between hearing and listening. To hear is to catch sound. To listen is to perceive meaning. And that depth of perception is only possible when your mind is still, when it is not waiting to respond, not preparing to defend, but simply receiving. When you truly listen, people reveal more than they intended. Not because they say more, but because your presence allows truth to rise. Silence also sharpens intuition. The noise of the world often overrides the signals of the body and the whispers of the soul. But when you embrace silence as a daily ritual, you become sensitive again. Sensitive not in a fragile way, but in a heightened way. You begin to feel the difference between alignment and resistance, between truth and performance, between the surface and the soul, and that feeling, that sensing becomes your guide. Many confuse silence with submission, but silence is not submission. It is observation. It is choice. It is restraint born from awareness. The woman who chooses silence does not do so because she is afraid, but because she understands that not every moment requires her voice. Sometimes the most powerful response is stillness. Not because she has nothing to say, but because not everything deserves her energy. With silence comes patience, with patience comes clarity, and with clarity comes wisdom. In that space, you make better decisions. You avoid unnecessary conflict. You understand timing. Not everything must happen now. Not everything must be answered immediately. The power of waiting, of watching, of letting things unfold is the power of one who trusts life. In your relationships, silence teaches you when to speak from love, not ego. In your work, it helps you act with precision, not haste. In your inner world, it gives you the strength to sit with discomfort without escaping. Because silence is not only about the outer world, it is about your inner state. It is the ability to sit still with your thoughts and not run, to face what is within you and not judge, to create a pause, and in that pause, to transform. True silence is not empty. It is full, full of presence, full of insight, full of knowing, and the more you choose to listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole being, the more your life will align. Because wisdom does not speak loudly, it speaks softly in the stillness, waiting for those willing to hear. And in that moment of deep listening, you do not just hear the world, you hear yourself, and in hearing yourself, you remember who you are. Solitude is often feared, misunderstood as loneliness or abandonment. Many avoid it, running toward distractions, clinging to noise, always surrounded by others or engulfed in devices, fearing the silence that arises when everything external is removed. But solitude is not something to escape. It is something to embrace. It is not emptiness. It is fullness without interruption. It is not weakness. It is deep, unmoving strength. There is a sacred power in choosing to be alone, not as an act of isolation, but as an act of self-connection. In solitude, you no longer perform. You no longer adjust yourself to be liked, accepted, or understood. You no longer speak to fit in or smile to avoid discomfort. In solitude, you are raw, you are real, you are exactly as you are, and in that honesty, you begin to meet your highest self. Your highest self is not found in crowds. She does not live in the noise of approval or in the reflection of others' expectations. She waits quietly within you, beneath the layers, beneath the noise. She appears only when the outer world fades, when you sit in stillness long enough to feel what is true. The strength of solitude is not loud. It does not need to be seen. It is the quiet courage to be alone with your thoughts, to sit with your fears, to feel your emotions fully without running. It is in solitude that you learn the rhythm of your soul. You begin to see your own patterns, to hear your own voice, to recognize the parts of you that have been calling out, but were always drowned beneath the demands of daily life. Most people try to find themselves in others, in validation, in relationships, in achievements, but the truth is, you will never fully know who you are until you spend time with yourself, away from the mirrors, away from the noise, away from the need to be anything other than what you are. Only then do you begin to feel your own energy, to sense what gives you life and what drains it, to remember what you love, not because others love it, but because it awakens something in you. Solitude is a mirror, but it does not reflect your appearance. It reflects your essence. When you are alone, there is nowhere to hide, no one to impress, only truth remains, and this truth, when fully seen, becomes your compass. It shows you where you've been performing, where you've been pleasing, where you've been hiding. And once you see that, you can begin to return, to rebuild yourself not from pressure, but from purpose. The strongest people are not those who are surrounded at all times. They are those who know how to retreat when necessary, to go inward, to recharge, to listen, to reconnect. Solitude becomes a sacred space of renewal, where the noise of the world cannot enter. In that space, clarity rises, ideas are born, decisions are made, not from confusion or fear, but from alignment. Being alone also teaches you self-reliance. You realize you do not need constant stimulation to feel alive. You do not need others to complete you. You do not need noise to avoid your thoughts. You are enough as you are. You are whole, and this realization births a different kind of strength, a strength that cannot be shaken by external opinions or temporary circumstances. A woman who knows how to stand in solitude is unshakable. She is not desperate for attention because she has met herself in the quiet and knows her worth. She does not fear walking alone because her own presence comforts her more than the company of noise. She may love deeply, connect fully, give freely, but none of that is born from need. It is born from wholeness. This is the paradox. The more time you spend alone, the more deeply you connect. Because you no longer lose yourself in others. You bring yourself to them, not a version shaped by fear, but the full, authentic expression of your soul. That kind of connection is rare, and it only comes when solitude has done its work. You are not empty. You are full of your own essence, your own energy, your own insight, and from that fullness, you begin to live differently. You walk with presence, you speak with truth, you love with freedom, because you no longer fear being alone. You have walked through the silence, and instead of getting lost, you found your truest self waiting for you. You wake up each day with a limited amount of energy. This energy is your most valuable currency, more precious than time, more important than money. Where you place your energy determines the shape of your day, the rhythm of your emotions, and the direction of your life. But most people give it away carelessly. They spend it on worry, on drama, on distractions. They hand it out generously as if it will always refill on its own. But energy must be protected, not wasted. Imagine each thought, each conversation, each reaction, each scroll as a transaction. With every transaction, you pay a price. You withdraw from your energy account. The question is not just where your time goes. The real question is, where does your energy go? Because time may still be available, but if your energy is gone, you cannot show up fully. You may be in the room, but your spirit, your focus, your presence is not. A wise woman begins to observe not just who takes her time, but who drains her energy, what environments leave her feeling exhausted, and which ones refill her spirit. She learns that just because she can give does not mean she should. She stops overextending herself to please, to fix, to prove, not because she is selfish, but because she understands her energy is sacred. Every act, no matter how small, is an investment. How you speak, what you consume, who you listen to, where you focus your mind. All of it either nourishes you or depletes you. There is no neutral ground. The woman who guards her energy is not rigid. She is intentional. She filters before she gives. She pauses before she reacts. She listens to her body, to her breath, to her intuition. If something feels off, she steps back. If something feels misaligned, she releases it. To conserve your energy is not to be cold. It is to be clear, to recognize that not every invitation is meant to be accepted. Not every conflict is yours to resolve. Not every conversation deserves a response. Silence becomes your boundary. Stillness becomes your strength. You no longer feel the need to chase or explain or prove. You protect your energy the way a queen protects her kingdom, not with fear, but with fierce awareness. Some people will not understand this. They may call you distant. They may say you've changed, but that's only because they were used to having access to you at all times, access to your time, your space, your energy. When you reclaim your energy, you disrupt their comfort, but you also restore your power. Energy flows where attention goes, and if your attention is scattered, so is your power. If you are constantly checking your phone, jumping between tasks, pleasing everyone, absorbing opinions, reacting to every emotion, you are draining your most vital force. A woman in mastery knows how to focus. Not just on work, but on presence. When she walks, she walks. When she eats, she tastes. When she listens fully. This single, pointed attention refines her energy. It sharpens her awareness. It builds strength from the inside out. When you begin to invest your energy wisely, everything changes. You no longer feel burnt out, because you are no longer leaking your power. You begin to attract peace, not chaos. You attract clarity, not confusion. People feel your presence not because you speak louder, but because your energy is focused and alive. You become magnetic, not by effort, but by alignment. Discipline is a form of self-respect. And energetic discipline means you do not trade your peace for temporary approval. You do not sacrifice your well-being to maintain appearances. You stay loyal to your spirit above all else, and from that place you give, not out of pressure, but from overflow. You give when your cup is full. You serve from wholeness, not depletion, and that kind of giving is pure. It heals, it uplifts, it empowers, because it comes from a place of rooted strength. Your energy is your responsibility. You may not control every circumstance, but you do control your response. You choose where to focus. You choose when to speak. You choose what to carry. Protecting your energy is not about hiding. It is about rising with intention. It is about knowing that your light matters and your presence is powerful, but only when you direct it, not when you disperse it carelessly. This is the path of a woman in alignment. She does not spend. She invests, she does not react, she responds, and she remembers every single day that her energy is not infinite, so she must treat it as sacred. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many see it as confinement, as control, as something cold and rigid. They associate it with punishment or restriction, something that limits spontaneity or joy, but this is a surface-level understanding. True discipline is not the enemy of freedom, it is the source of it. Without discipline, there is chaos. Without structure, there is no direction. A life without boundaries becomes a life without depth. The woman who embraces discipline does not imprison herself, she liberates herself. Discipline is the quiet decision to remain committed even when no one is watching. It is the steady hand that holds the brush day after day, so that one day the painting can be completed. It is the practice of saying no to temporary pleasure so that lasting peace can emerge. Discipline creates the conditions for true growth. It is not about force, it is about rhythm. It is the heartbeat of a life that moves with clarity and intention. When you have discipline, you do not wake up each day lost in emotion or indecision. You rise with purpose. You begin the day not at the mercy of the world's demands, but in alignment with your own priorities. Discipline means choosing actions that serve your highest self, not just your current mood. It is not always exciting, it is not always easy, but it is always empowering. Freedom without discipline is fragile. It feels good for a moment, but quickly collapses into confusion. You can eat anything, say anything, do anything, but without self-control, that kind of freedom leads to self-destruction. True freedom comes when you know yourself well enough to create structure that supports your vision. Discipline is not a cage, it is the framework within which you become powerful. A river without banks becomes a flood. A life without discipline becomes scattered and restless. When you build discipline into your daily life, you begin to trust yourself. Each time you follow through on a promise to yourself, your self-respect deepens. You no longer rely on motivation or emotion. You are guided by something deeper. Commitment. You understand that freedom is not the absence of responsibility, but the ability to move through life with mastery. That ability is earned through practice, through repetition, through choosing what is right over what is easy. Discipline does not require perfection, it requires presence. It is the act of returning again and again to your chosen path, even when you've strayed. The disciplined woman does not fear failure. She expects it, but she also knows how to rise from it, because her strength is not based on results. It is based on devotion. She does not need every step to be flawless. She only needs to keep walking. Structure births liberation. When your day is framed with intention, you do not feel restricted. You feel focused. You know what matters and you give it space. You create boundaries around your energy, your time, your values. And in doing so, you gain something most people never have: clarity. You no longer chase every impulse. You no longer say yes to things that drain you. Your life becomes organized around what is essential. That kind of order creates peace. Discipline is also the guardian of your potential. Without it, talent is wasted. Without it, dreams stay dreams. But with it, everything becomes possible, because discipline does not rely on mood or chance. It creates its own momentum. It is a practice of presence, of daily alignment, of choosing who you want to become and showing up for her consistently. A disciplined woman moves differently. She does not rush. She does not crave approval. Her actions are intentional, and her energy is directed. People may not see the work behind her calm presence, but it is there. In every early morning, every quiet choice, every inner battle she has won through persistence. And while others may look for shortcuts, she builds foundations, not because it is faster, but because it is lasting. Her freedom is not found in escape, but in mastery. And that mastery is born from discipline, soft yet strong, flexible yet unwavering. In a world that pulls you in many directions, discipline is the anchor that holds you steady. It reminds you that you are the architect of your life. You are not waiting to be rescued or given permission. You create the conditions for your growth. You show up whether it's convenient or not, because you understand discipline is not just a habit, it is a way of living. It is the silent force behind every strong woman who walks with grace and acts with purpose. When the heart is clouded, the mind cannot see clearly. No matter how organized your plans are, no matter how precise your goals may seem, if your emotions are in conflict, your direction becomes blurred. You may keep moving, but your movement lacks meaning. You may appear productive, but inside, you feel restless. True clarity begins not in the mind, but in the heart, because it is your emotions that fuel your decisions. And until those emotions are understood, your steps will always feel uncertain. You must learn to sit with your heart, not to suppress what you feel, but to listen deeply. Your heart holds the stories that your mind may try to ignore. The fears that go unspoken, the longings that hide behind your busyness, the pain that you have carried but never confronted, and the truth you've always known but never allowed yourself to admit. These feelings, when left unexamined, do not disappear. They distort your perception, they color your choices, they influence your path without your awareness. But when you make the choice to turn inward, to sit in stillness and feel what you've been avoiding, something shifts. Clarity begins to rise, not because the mind has worked harder, but because the heart has been heard. Emotions that are acknowledged lose their grip. They become guides instead of barriers. They begin to teach you where you are wounded, where you are called, where you are growing. A clear heart does not mean a heart without emotion. It means a heart in alignment, a heart that is not buried under guilt, resentment, fear, or regret. A heart that beats not just to survive, but to thrive. When you clean the emotional lens through which you see the world, your vision becomes sharp, decisions become easier, direction becomes obvious, because there is no more inner resistance pulling you in two different directions. Emotional clarity is a form of inner leadership. It requires that you become honest with yourself, not just about what you want, but about why you want it. Are your goals born from your truth or from your wounds? Are your choices coming from love or from fear? These are not questions to be answered quickly. They require quiet reflection. They require solitude, patience, and the courage to feel. When your heart is scattered, your energy becomes fragmented. You begin to chase things that are not meant for you. You follow noise instead of purpose. You react instead of respond. But when your emotions are aligned, when peace replaces confusion and truth replaces performance, you move with quiet strength. You no longer need to force. You no longer need to overthink. You simply act from clarity. To align your emotions does not mean to be positive all the time. It means to be honest all the time. It means allowing yourself to feel the full range of your human experience, but not be ruled by it. To allow anger, but not be consumed by it. To allow sadness, but not sink into it. To allow fear, but not be guided by it. Emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. They are signals. And if you pause long enough to understand them, they will show you what needs healing. When you lead from a clear heart, the world does not distract you as easily. The opinions of others lose their power over you. You stop comparing because your direction is no longer dictated by what others are doing. It's grounded in what is right for you. You stop rushing because you're no longer running away from your own inner chaos. You move with intention, with calm, with grace. That is what clarity offers, not speed, but certainty, not perfection, but alignment. A woman with a clear heart does not move to impress, but to express. Her mind is focused, not because she has silenced her emotions, but because she has made peace with them. She does not suppress what she feels, she channels it. Her decisions are not just smart, they are soulful. Her strength is not just mental, it is emotional wisdom, and this wisdom is cultivated, not given. It grows every time you choose reflection over reaction, truth over comfort, alignment over appearance. When your heart is clear, your mind becomes a sharp tool, not distracted, not overwhelmed, but directed like a steady flame. And in that still, quiet focus, your life begins to shape itself not from pressure, but from purpose. Grace is often mistaken for softness, for gentleness without strength, for elegance without intention. But true grace is not about how you appear, it is about how you move through the world, calm, composed, aware. A graceful woman is not passive. She is not silent out of fear, nor still out of weakness. She is intentional, she sees clearly, she chooses carefully, and when she acts, she does so with precision, not hesitation. There is a quiet power in a woman who knows her path. Her energy does not scatter. Her presence does not beg to be seen. She is not in a rush to prove herself, because she has already accepted who she is. She does not compete, not because she lacks ambition, but because her direction is guided by purpose, not comparison. Her grace is not submission, it is alignment. Precision is her language. She does not waste words. She does not chase situations. She does not place herself in places that do not nourish her spirit. Everything she does is intentional. Every step she takes has weight. Every movement is rooted in awareness. She does not act out of impulse, but from inner clarity. And because of that, she rarely needs to explain herself. Her energy speaks before her mouth does. This woman does not move because the world pushes her. She moves when her inner compass calls. She has trained herself to listen to that subtle wisdom, that quiet knowing beneath the noise. It is not always the loudest voice, but it is always the truest one. And once she hears it, she trusts it. That is why her steps are steady. That is why her spirit is unshaken, because her actions are born from truth, not from urgency. Grace requires discipline, to remain centered when chaos surrounds you, to choose stillness when you are provoked, to pause instead of react. It is not the easy path, but it is the path of depth. The woman who walks with grace has learned not to be controlled by emotion, not to be swayed by external drama. She feels, but she does not flinch. She sees, but she does not judge. She speaks, but only when her words can add clarity, not noise. There is strength, a strength that does not need validation, a strength that does not scream to be noticed. She does not dominate the space she enters, but she defines it with her presence. She does not shrink, but she also does not inflate herself to be more than necessary. She fits where she is meant to, because she carries no pretense, only presence. Her precision is not only in how she moves, but in what she allows. She is selective with her energy. She does not entertain drama because she values her peace too deeply. She does not explain herself repeatedly because she knows that clarity does not require permission. She does not try to be understood by everyone, only by those who are meant to walk beside her. This woman is not easily shaken because she has built herself from within. Her confidence is not borrowed, it is rooted. It does not crumble when challenged. She has faced herself in silence. She has walked through her own fire. She has learned when to hold on and when to release. And now, when storms come, she does not panic. She adjusts her posture, steadies her breath, and moves forward, with calm, with care, with purpose. Her grace is not performance. It is the result of years of self-awareness, of inner work, of choosing wisdom over reaction. She does not need to rush. She does not need to chase. What is meant for her will feel the weight of her presence and rise to meet her. Her role is not to run after life, but to walk with it, shoulder to shoulder, in full alignment. There is beauty in this precision, not perfection, but intention. A graceful woman knows that her strength lies not in doing more, but in doing what matters. She is not here to be everything to everyone. She is here to be fully herself, and so every step she takes, whether big or small, is an act of alignment, a choice to remain true, a reflection of her inner clarity. The world may not always understand her calm. It may mistake her silence for weakness, her softness for submission, but those who look deeper will see it, the unwavering flame inside her, the fire she does not shout about, but lives by. She is not here to rush. She is here to rise steadily, quietly, with grace and precision, until every step becomes a reflection of the woman she has chosen to become.